Well, just here's an update uh, on the fraud put out by Jeffrey Gettleman and two of his Israeli colleagues at the New York Times, alleging that story that came out in late December, alleging a pattern of sexual violence by Hamas on October 7th. We were out the gate debunking it. And now this is the latest. More than 50 10-year journalism professors from top schools signed a letter calling on the Times to address questions about an investigative report that described a pattern of gender-based violence in the October 7th Hamas attacks in Israel. So this is now journalism professors, more than 50 of them across the U.S., calling out the Times and telling them to review their scam of a story. I mean, I think they should just call for the Times to retract it. There's no need to review it. It's a scam. Everyone knows it. So many purported witnesses have been debunked. The Times even had to admit that one of their witnesses had lied, although they did it in the most weaselly way. Basically, one of their witnesses who claimed to have seen two teenage girls suffering signs of sexual violence, it was found that he was lying. He was lying. This was debunked by actually video taken by an Israeli soldier. And the Times, rather than correcting his lies, added this update inside the story, not even at the end of it, inside the story, and basically tried to suggest that the witness had misspoken and maybe seen these two victims somewhere else, not where he initially claimed to have seen them. So this story is such a fraud that even now journalism professors are calling on the Times to review it and address the obvious pattern of fraudulence that we identified from the start, and that we called out many months ago. So it's great to see other people catching on.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't expect another shoe to drop, but this is becoming incredibly embarrassing for the New York Times. Arthur Sulzberger, was it Arthur Sulzberger? His son from the Sulzberger family, which owns the New York Times, actually cited that story as one of the proudest pieces of work the New York Times did covering the post-October 7th conflict at the Reuters. It was a Reuters media conference. And he's really paying the price for that. It's really New York Times leadership that is holding on to this fraudulent story and refusing to retract because it would be so embarrassing. And as that letter points out, the New York Times conducted a review of its Iraq war coverage and essentially retracted Judith Miller's reporting. So I guess they basically decided there's no way the New York Times will fully retract the story, but if they announce an official review, that will be a de facto retraction.
But they won't.
But they won't.
They won't. They will not. This story is too big to fail.
And that's fine. Don't do it. It just adds to the free fall of the New York Times credibility and the free fall of legacy media credibility. You can see the Washington Post jumping on this because they want to overtake the New York Times and try to, I mean, it's their key rival. Yeah. So they want to show that they're more credible and that when democracy dies in darkness every day at the Washington Post. I will say the Washington Post has been moderately better on Gaza than the New York Times. They've had a more diverse array of voices. And
absolutely. I mean, the Times, they're just straight up stenographers for Israel. At the Washington Post, there's a little bit more freedom allowed. I mean, plenty of criticism about the Post, but the Times is on a different level.